For over a century, the contributions of America's first Black composer were lost. In 1887, New Orleans-born Edmond Dédé wrote Morgiane, an opera that tells the story of a family trying to rescue their daughter before she's married away to a villainous sultan. But it wasn't until 2011 when researchers rediscovered the manuscript for Morgiane. We recently took a trip to Boston's French Library to sit down with some of the people who helped bring Morgiane back to life. They talked about Dédé's work and the significance of opera to the Black community.
My colleague and I were charged to process this collection, and we would open these huge boxes. We would identify what we were looking at, and then we would go from there. And in this case, my colleague pulled it out, opened it, saw that it was a manuscript, handed it to me. So I looked through it and discovered that the name on the title page of Edmond Dédé was unfamiliar to me. So I had to do research to figure out who he was. But it took me a little while to discover that he was actually a Creole, a Black Creole composer from New Orleans who had gone to Paris.
Edmond Dédé was a free person of color born in New Orleans in 1827. He was a composer and conductor. He was trained first in New Orleans by his father, who was a clarinetist, and then by members of the Italian and French opera house orchestras in New Orleans. He then went to Paris in 1855 to get out of the United States before the Civil War. He composed the opera Morgiane, which is a four-act French grand opera, which right now is the oldest extant opera by a Black American.
In the mid-1700s, people were thinking about leaving New Orleans because we were below sea level, so there was always water and mud. We had poor sanitation, lots of bugs, and people were getting frustrated. And then the decision was made to bring in the French culture with balls and operas and symphonies and that sort of thing. And the ladies would leave their houses in regular clothes and go barefoot through the mud and get to the theater, and there was a place to wash your legs and feet. And then you put on your fancy dress and you enjoy the evening. And so the music began to be the thing that was galvanizing to the community. So I always say that opera in pumping the water out of the city saved New Orleans. And so it was like pop music for everybody. Everybody loved to go, loved to attend. Free people of color, of course, attended, and some enslaved people who were working to raise money to buy their freedom, they also bought a ticket to the opera.
I think that there are a lot of reasons this opera was never produced. I think that Dédé existed in a very transitional time in music, particularly both in the United States and in France. In the United States, when he was growing up, when he was born, free people of color had many of the same rights that every other citizen of New Orleans would have, but slowly as he grew up, many and most of those rights were taken away, both as a musician and also as a person. When he moved to Bordeaux and wrote this piece, I think that there were also issues of race, class, and the admission to places like the Grand Théâtre. He had friends who were producers there when he was coming up as a musician, but by the time he completed the opera, those people were no longer there, and so he was kept out for because he wasn't on the inside anymore. And after that, he had a tough time because he was at the end of his career, didn't really know anyone in Paris when he returned there to live with his son, and so it faded into obscurity, and this opera was actually never performed during his lifetime.
Well, interesting thing happened. Before the Civil War, everybody's going to the opera. After the Civil War, we had Reconstruction where the facilities became fully integrated. There was no, separations of the races when they went to the theaters. And we had this wonderful time, about 5-7 years in New Orleans, where we had full integration and wonderful things happening. But then Jim Crow laws came down, and began to penalize and try to pull back on the rights of free people of color. So one of our musicians, Victor Eugene McCarthy, bought a ticket to the French Opera House in what would have been the white section. They sold him the ticket, but once he sat down, those who knew that he was of African descent had him kicked out. The people who were buying tickets decided to protest with their dollars and decided they would buy no more tickets, and so the French Opera House did not have the money to send their singers back to France. What happened after that is all of a sudden we were totally kicked out of the genre of music, out of the theaters, out of even participating. And so they found work where they could find work. The magical thing that happened was that those who were classically trained came together, those were trained in African rhythms, trained in Caribbean practices, and they came together and they created new music.
As an educator, what is really exciting to me to share with young people about Dédé and this history is that, you know, Black people have composed lots of types of music from lots of different eras, and discovering a Black American that was writing French grand opera is a really beautiful intersection of different cultures and it shows up in a way that's not often told about the history of Black composers in this country.
I have always believed, and my parents instilled in me, that nobody should put you in a box, and you certainly should not put yourself in a box. Just because I'm Black, I only like these things or only do these things. And we've seen over time after time after time that we do everything and we excel at everything. Don't let anybody tell you who you're supposed to be. You know who you're born to be, and you have to make that happen.
Well, thanks so much to the French Library for facilitating this conversation, and you can watch more Rooted in the playlist and the socials listed in the description below.